Okay, so welcome everyone for those who are here and not here. This is the introductory financial social work meeting for UB students and alumni. And so this is going to be pretty informal, I guess. I organized a presentation that's very brief just to kind of go over some of the basics of financial social work. And I definitely want to, the main reason for this meeting is to see what all of you already know about financial social work, what interested you in the discipline, and then what do you want this group to be in order to be productive and valuable to you. So I'm going to share my screen and just show you a little bit of the presentation.
Okay.
Bear with me for any technical difficulties, but okay. So yeah, UB Financial Social Work. And just an introduction to me, if you don't know me, my name's Daniel Khan. I'm a dual degree MBA MSW, and I'll be graduating by summer of 2021. So one
Awesome.
year left. Okay. So the three main things to cover in this brief presentation: what is financial social work? Who is it for? And then why should we learn about it? So first starting with what it actually is, and again, this is not going to be as detailed uh, as an explanation would be from the website itself, financialsocialwork.com. And you can always, do your due diligence and research it yourself. But just as an overview, so this was founded by Rita Wolfson in 1997, and this is her right here. So it's basically meant to be this component to serving clients that is supposed to be interactive, introspective, and behavioral in nature.
Cool.
And as the name implies, it's about people's finances. But specifically, it goes beyond what you would think of for like a financial advisor or like a CPA, for example. And it's more about
Yeah.
a person's, Miss Wolfson talks about relationship with their money. But I've also heard other people talk about an attitude around money. And one thing that this is all about is healing. So, trying to develop hope and develop self awareness about your own experiences in life, your upbringing, and your behaviors, especially when it comes to managing your finances, saving, investing, budgeting, and spending.
Mm.
So, it's all about tapping into a person's core values, what they truly value in life, and that is all going to be centered around what money actually means to us, because each one of you, each one of us has our own perception of what money actually means, and a lot of it's going to be negative and positive. But the whole point of this is trying to make it just valuable to us so that we can actually heal from whatever trauma or negative experiences we've had with money, indirectly or directly. And so it's about decision making, goal setting, and that's learning the tools and the skills necessary to save, invest, spend wisely, and overall just have some financial self-care by the end of the not by the end of the process. It's supposed to be an ongoing process over the long term, but hopefully you get to where you want to be in terms of whatever goals you have with money. So the basic premise is that through your relationship and attitude with your finances and with money itself, that whole paradigm that you have, that perception you have, is going to drive your financial behavior. And based off of your financial behavior, you will see either negative or positive financial circumstances at the end of it. A lot of your income, whether you're, the health that you have regarding your financial self care is going to determine your wealth in the future. And so there are a couple things offered from the website. Again, financialsocialwork.com. I recommend you check it out. I've put a link in our messenger chat too if you want to check it out. But the certification process is essentially for those who either want to just study themselves in terms of how they identify with money and what they can do to hold on to the money they have, to improve their financial circumstances, and then eventually to grow your own wealth. And then ideally to be able to share this knowledge with other people. And so I'm actually in the process of doing the certification. There are a series of workbooks you go through, and I'm going to show you a little bit about what that looks like in case you're interested. And so the certification is actually supported by the NASW.
Okay, cool.
So it's actually a certification that you can use to start your own practice. And I'll show you a little bit about the details of that in a couple slides. And there's also these meetups, webinars that you can attend, whether or not you actually are going through the certification. You can sign up for these, and a lot of people find a lot of value from these. A lot of them were specific to COVID and the like this first one right here, behavioral change during and post COVID. So
Yeah.
thing to look into if you find that interesting. So
Definitely.
financial social work for, I sourced these from the frequently asked questions, these two from the frequently asked questions section of the website. And so if you become certified, depending on what degrees you already have, you'll be labeled as certain things. So if you have a bachelor's or master's in social work, you'll officially be a certified financial social worker, counseling psychology, you'd be a financial social work counselor. And for other degrees, you'd be considered an educator or a coach. So it's all just semantics, but kind of depending on the degree you have, this might reframe the type of work you would be able to do if you were to get the certification. And I want to also preface this, I'm not selling this. I don't work for financial social work. I just wanted to share this with all of you because I started the process and I wanted to get with like-minded people who also thought it was interesting and important. And so the benefits that you can have and the type of fields that you can get into without having to go into detail, these are some of the different professions and skills and trades that you can get into based off of this. But you could also be working with these kind of people. I think, Michael, you mentioned about CPAs, and a lot of financial social workers work with CPAs.
Yeah.
I've talked to some people who have been using the certification to be a financial therapist, and they actually get their referrals from word of mouth from CPAs, real estate agents, and the like. So there's a lot of working with other disciplines in business and social work as well to be able to attract clients and to spread financial social work itself. And so I added these two here for UB. So in terms of us, students or alumni, so how can we benefit from this? At the very least, in terms of this group that we have, I would hope that, whatever questions you have, whatever resources we share would be able to help all of us develop better financial health for ourselves. Obviously, especially for those who are leaving college, starting their careers, or already working part-time in their careers while they're in college, whatever it is, it's so important to make sure that we understand our relationship and our attitude with our money, because this is our living and this is what we earn. And to develop self-care and wellness as soon as possible right now, it's going to prove useful in the years to come. And I hope that we can all share that incentive with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And also with the people that you care about in your life. Like I want to be able to learn this stuff so I can help my mom and my dad secure a financial future for the years they have left, and obviously my friends. And I'm sure a lot of you might have similar motivation. And then I will also show you an idea and project I wanted to work on that included coaching and counseling at UB. If you're familiar with Blackstone Launchpad, that helps students with venture ideas, business venture ideas. Well, this would essentially be a service at UB, ideally free for students who want to develop better financial habits during and after college when they graduate with their new income from a new job. And I think this is something that, we can talk about. And obviously all of us here have been linked up through the through the social work alumni network on Facebook. But I'd like to get your input to see what other disciplines could be include, business and psychology with, financial advising and counseling, and then even medicine, like people who need to pay off their healthcare expenses. Maybe financial social work could be something that, doctors and nurses could be using to further add value to their clients. And I'd like to get your input on who else we could include in this, or if we just leave this as a social work thing. It's up to us. And so lastly, why should we learn about financial social work? Aside from what is currently here, it seems like a lot of, especially in social work, money seems to be demonized a lot. You know, you hear the term, money is the root of all evil, and we relate a lot of negativity to money. And that's kind of a shame because money itself does not cause evil or negative outcomes. It's what people do with it. And as social workers, we're the type of people who want to actually add value to society and improve the conditions of existence for people. So why wouldn't we want to have money? And why wouldn't we want to help people, with their financial circumstances? So I think the purpose of this, I think, is to at least start the conversation about money among social workers specifically. And I would hope that some of you would agree. And again, whatever input you have, please feel free. But just a current state of where we're at right now, we have $1.64 trillion in student debt roughly. And, it's one of the largest sources of household debt short of mortgages. And that, obviously we're investing in our future and our careers and our human capital, but it's ridiculous. College expenses are rising and tuition is rising at a rate faster than our healthcare and our medical care expenses. And coupling that with illiteracy, insecurity around finances, students are not able to thrive in college or focus on their academia when they have this looming debt behind them, not just from student loans and student debt, but from credit cards and whatever else there may be, food insecurity, like that's also an issue. And money is a galvanizing force to be able to help us tackle these problems. And so with that being said, that's what this group is ideally here for, is let's start talking about money and what it means to us as social workers and as individuals. And that's kind of what I had for this presentation. But I also wanted to show you, let me see if I can pull it up. I can find it. Okay, here we go. So one thing I wanted to talk about that this group could be an influence for is having financial counseling specifically for low income students, but mainly for all students who want to learn about finance for themselves to be able to pay off their loans, on time and efficiently, not accumulating too much interest and being able to take advantage of other incentives that would help alleviate their financial burden, budgeting, just any of their money habits that would lead to negative or positive financial circumstances. And so I'm not going to really read off this too much because we already talked about a lot of this, but having this financial social work group could lead to a financial counseling center, or at least having financial coaches at UB to be able to help students, because a lot of other colleges are doing this, but not enough. And we don't really see this at UB specifically. And so I wanted to get your input on how we could help this come to fruition and what this would look like in your opinion. And so I can also send this to you guys if you'd like, along with the presentation. But yeah, I'm going to stop sharing, but I kind of want to hear from at least you three who are here today, kind of what you're thinking, what you would like this group to be, and like maybe what questions or ideas you have.
I guess, Mike, you go first, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, so I can start. So I think it's interesting. So even for myself, I have a lot of family members that were in the helping field and business. So it's always been interesting to me. I've always wanted to, from a young age, try and even blend the two fields because I think that there's a lot to learn from them. I know that even when I was at UB, I did the social impact fellowship. I thought that was really interesting because I was with Westside Bazaar and Weedy, so, like, being able to have the cultural piece and work with the refugees, but then also learning about, like, I was in the midst too when they were finding a new location, so it was all in terms of, like, the market research and doing a lot of the financial end and then seeing how they were doing the loans, and it was just really interesting to see, like, this incubator network that was also then this, like, social force in the community, and that made me really interested in things. And even seeing things too, like, with M&T Bank and how they have their influence in the community. And I just think that as social workers, like you were saying before too, I do think there's this notion about money being demonized, of like the rich and like corporate money and greed, and it's just like we're the field's supposed to be focused on like, oh, we care about helping people, but the thing is too, especially with nonprofits, if you have you have people that are drawn to the field because they care about the values and mission of the organization, but if you have no money to fund your mission, you're not effective. And so I just think in general our field can learn a lot about being able to be more financially responsible and recognizing too, like, our programs even running efficiently, like, are people even looking at budgets, or are you just like throwing money at the problem? And I think that a lot more of those conversations have to happen. Even when I talked to my field educator last year, she was telling me too, when she had first gotten right out of school, she didn't even have salary negotiation talks. She just took her salary right out of school because in social work it was like that's just what you did. You didn't feel comfortable discussing money because it was such a taboo topic, and her salary was like $28,000. And she's like, she got lowballed so low, and this was even a few years ago. But she was like, because she didn't feel confident enough, a in her own financial knowledge, or it was just like, oh, that's not something that you discuss.
Yeah.
You're just in social work to help people. And I was like, why do you have? I just don't. I don't like that whole ideology behind our field, the idea that's just like, oh, we're just nice people that like to help others. And it's like, yeah, like you are, but like, why does that mean that you have to then like not want a living wage or to also then be knowledgeable about finances? So I think it's really important. So that's my
Brought up a lot of good points, and I'll let you if either of you have other things to add to. But like the West Side Bazaar you talked about, that's like a empowerment perspective, and a lot of financial social work is about that as well, like giving people resources to earn for themselves and set their own future up. And yeah, you are exactly right. Like social workers tend to have this pride in like even like working their fingers to the bone and then not really having to make a lot of money because they just do it from the heart. Like that's all well intentioned, but it's like love, you can't love others until you love yourself. And look, money, there's no denying it. Money impacts all of us in from the large to the small, from our government to our family, our house. And so we have to change this conversation. This isn't just an individual problem. This is an entire culture. And so, groups like this, I think, are going to be that impetus for changing that. So, yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah, so Michael, Cassie, do you have anything else that you'd like to add? Any thoughts?
I mean, I feel very similar. Like I think there's the big taboos with money and like power and everything that people don't like to talk about in social work, but they're really useful tools for affecting change, not only for individuals, but like wide, bigger, like larger change. And I think especially like with the pandemic happening and like a lot of like lower income people, immigrant families not having access to like the stimulus package or a lot of other financial resources, this is going to be something that's going to be beneficial not only to UB students, but the community at large, because a lot of people are going to need some financial help, financial counseling when all this is done, and probably even now. So I don't know. I think this is cool, and I think it's gonna benefit a lot of people, and especially within the own social work program at UB, it's gonna spark a lot of conversations that should be being had right now, but I feel like they're not because people don't want to talk about these topics because it's just not. I don't know. There's the culture of acceptance of low pay, and I don't know. It's that's just stuff that needs to change. So I'm excited about this.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, you talked about power too. I mean, that's another thing demonized. Like, power is what allows you to make change. And that's why we're change makers. Like, we're trying to influence positive change for the world. So the more power we have, the more leverage we have to outweigh the people that currently have the power and the wealth, who maybe don't have good intentions or maybe are just negligent to how to better serve people. We
Mhm.
ideally know how to serve people. We know the needs of the community. We should have the wealth. We should have the power. Um, and the timing of this is, yeah, absolutely appropriate. I think you're spot on. Like, this pandemic right now, with people losing their jobs, their livelihoods, this is less. It's not even just about being able to make ends. It's about the people's businesses are like their babies. And if they lose all of that, where does their sense of purpose come from? And you know, I think this is another avenue that can help heal those wounds as well. Yeah, thank you, Cassie, for bringing that up. And then, Michael, do you have you wanted to say something?
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think it's imperative that social workers on every level, micro, meso, and macro, have these skills that have a firm understanding of what the relationship is between finances and money and behavior. And I think that, um, you know, with the pandemic, certainly it's more important, I think, than ever, obviously, like you've all said, to have these, understandings. But, it goes, you asked earlier in that slide, like um, what other careers or occupations could be, involved in having this training. And, I think honestly, law students should have this. As someone who's, an attorney who has worked with indigent clients before, and had to figure out budgeting, how to pay for, um, fines and, make restitution. And, then at the same time, comments by other attorneys about, oh, but they have an Escalade. Why are they, they should have all the money in the world to pay that. Why do they get a free lawyer? A lack of understanding and acceptance of, well, people have a right to have things. And, I think that it's important that people that are working with anyone in the community has some understanding of money and relationships and finances and budgeting. And, anyone that's going to be working with clients one-on-one, anyone that's on an organizational level that needs to oversee people that are working with these clients needs to have an understanding of that. So from my perspective, that's, you all know my background. Obviously, I'm looking to have that more macro role, but I still need to understand what the troops on the ground are doing with individual clients, and make sure that they have the skills necessary to complete those roles. As someone who has been a case manager back a million years ago, while most of you were in diapers, if even born, back in like 2000, or 2001. Yeah. So, I didn't have those skills, and I was working with clients, as a case manager, trying to budget their money, and going on the fly and not really having an understanding of that behavioral aspect and how it associates with their finances. So I think that it's important that, there are case managers that a lot of them are not MSWs, they're BSWs, and they don't get the full perspective that we get in this program, until they get to the MSW level. So I think it's important that we are training them, in their undergraduate level. So when they get these first jobs out of college, they're equipped to work with these clients and serve them well. So I'll shut up now.
No, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. And you also mentioned about your interest in the macro setting. And first of all, just you coming from the law background as well, we need more people in this group that are, I mean, we have more dual degrees now. We have like business and law and like medicine, and like we have all these different in public health. We need to have more of like a trans and like multidisciplinary approach to these things. And because finances, again, it touches all of our lives, it touches all disciplines in some way. On the macro level, it doesn't have to be about our personal finances, like how we individually spend and our behavior with it. What about on like a an organizational level? Like how does an organization use its resources to serve its purpose, and how can maybe the culture be adapted to how you spend your money and like what the company's capital is used for or the organization's capital is used for. That could be another realm that we kind of go into. I'd love to learn more about that if anyone has interest. And Brandon, I noticed you joined. Thank you for coming.
I did join. Here I am. Thanks so much for having me. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind.
No, it's okay. Yeah. Anything you'd like to add? I don't know if you heard the beginning or not, but
No, I'm just catching up. Give me a minute.
yeah, please take your time. How about this? So we're at 2:34. In terms of people's time, I don't want to take too much of your time, but I kind of wanted to just have this meeting as a stepping stone to what's coming next. And so I want to hear from you about what you want this group to be. And maybe first I can kind of give you an idea, aside from what I've already talked about, like what this could look like. Um, so, so first, let me pull up the first workbook that I'm going through, so you guys can see, in case the certification is a route you wanted to go down. It's about it's a 500 with tax, and there's like discounts that are offered here and there, but the purpose of this group is not about you getting the certification or even going to the website at all. We can learn from each other here. It's just about the discipline itself and how we can apply it to each of our lives in some way, to our practice and our personal lives. So this is the workbook. There are 5 in the certification I'm doing. And so a lot of it is, what I like about it is it's not just talking about information, like, you know, I screen clipped that for the presentation we did earlier, but the first whole part of it is about self-awareness and about the discipline itself and starting to understand the different attitudes around money and where these attitudes come from. You know, our childhood, our parents, you know, our peers, and our society at large. Like, what are they teaching us about money? And so what are the stories that we're learning and absorbing? But what's cool about this is there's also these interactive sections where you actually fill stuff out yourself. Yeah, so you can kind of pave your own path and do as little or as much as you want, but inevitably this leads to an exam that you take that tests your knowledge of all these modules you go over. But I just wanted to show you what it kind of looks like in case you were wondering whether it's worth it or not, because I personally so far think it's worth it, especially because it is supported by the NASW. So it has the authority behind it as well. And what we're talking about is like, this can be applied to like your own personal practice, but taking this into an organizational level, more of like the macro level, this could be about like organizational change and how a company, an organization's culture and their management relates to finances. And that can go into like corporate social responsibility in some ways too. And I'm curious what you guys think of where that intersectionality lies. But ideally, it would be nice to be able to talk more about these financial counseling centers or having coaches at UB more in depth, maybe at a future meeting where maybe that topic is dedicated to that. I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to stop sharing again. So just, I guess, in the last hoorah of this meeting, what do you guys want to see? Like when we have our future meetings, you know, first of all, like how often would you maybe want to meet, and what will be the content and the value of it? Like what would make you want to come to this meeting?
I had a quick question.
Sure.
Um, so if we were to form a financial counseling center, would you only be able to like serve as like someone working there if you've done the certification? Or
So
could you distill that information to us? Would like how would that work?
that's a good question. So I would ideally think either people would get the certification themselves too, like we'd have a team of people who all went through the certification to officially get it. But I was even thinking like if people didn't like want to go through that, to at least be able to filter what I've learned through it and to be able to like share that within the context of the group. And then maybe there's an avenue of like the venture coaches at Blackstone, they just have a shared Google Drive with like lean startup methodology and talk to each other on like how they coach people. And maybe that could be something similar where not everyone has to be an official financial social worker, but having some sort of formalized training through this group even, or having a separate group for just the people wanting to coach. Um, and that could be a resource at UB. And maybe there's like, you could either do it like volunteer or earn like course credit for doing it, or even having like a student assistant or like work study. Like I'm using Blackstone just because it already exists, but
Yeah.
obviously that's not the only template, but that's kind of what I was thinking. That answers the question.
Okay, because if that was the case, if we didn't need to actually get certification, like some meetings could be dedicated. Like I know you're still working through the workbook yourself, but maybe distilling that information to us in like a more condensed form. Because like I don't know if I'm gonna invest in this right now, but I'd like to like learn more about it.
Yeah, no, I would love to do that. Like I don't want to waste your time when you come here. So when you come here, if you're expecting to like learn something new every time you come here, I will do whatever I can to make sure I relay the financial social work materials as best as I can. And but I don't want to like I don't know if that's what you all want. Like if you just want to talk about stuff and maybe start to formalize the skeleton of what a counseling center would look like, or if you just want to come in here and like learn a couple things for your own personal life, it really is kind of open. That's why I I only have some direction. I just want to make sure that you guys actually want to be in this and you get something out of it.
Mhm.
But yeah, let me know if you have an idea on like specifically if maybe there's like a separate context besides these meetings that would be better for, or if I can like make a presentation, record it, and then send it out to you guys. Because I would benefit from teaching it too. Like I learn even more from doing that, and then we can talk about it here. I don't know. Yeah. What else do you guys think?
Um, I think yeah, too, like getting an idea of the counseling center, that sounds really interesting. I think would be good to get a group together, especially having people from multiple disciplines talking about it to see like what that could look like. And for myself too, like I do have greater ideals down my career of wanting to do like stuff with corporate social responsibility and more of like intertwining in terms of community trainings and businesses. So I might be interested then wanting to get the certification.
Yeah. No, for sure.
I think it would be a good tool to have.
And plus, you're going to meet a lot of people, even in this group, who share that same interest. So this is
Yeah.
about making connections with other peers in the group. Yeah.
Because even when I had gone on interviews and when I have been networking with people, like, are you familiar with LISC?
Sort of. I feel like I've heard a bit. Can you remind me?
Well, yeah, Julie Arnold too. Like it started as like a very small. They're very much like a financial social work corporation. So the executive director, Julie O'Neill, would be a good person too to even get in contact with. I can
Okay.
send you information. Like she started working in like City Hall, but then she wanted to do exactly like getting more involved in terms of being able to work in large scale community projects, but also doing it based off from a business standpoint. And so when I had even talked to her and then Katie O'Connor, she is like the community person from M&T. She worked with United Way, but then her job is to go and do different like community meetings, but through um financial stuff with M&T, but she has her social work degree. And so there's a lot of people out there in the community that I've even networked with that are doing things like that, that are using their social work knowledge, but they've blended it with business and are making real impacts in the community. So it's like tapping into other resources of people and seeing what they're doing and how there is real impact to be made.
Thank you. Yeah, I wrote that down too.
Yeah, I can send you some of their information. Like are open to it. Like they love connecting with other people, especially with UB. So it's good to be able to get like experts that are in the field that are actually doing the work. I think that could be an interesting resource too, to see how you can expand what our knowledge is and what they've learned and how we can really try to expand things.
You know, you make me think like we can invite, like in the macro social work group, we have people like guest speakers come in. So
Yeah,
if you have people in mind, I mean, we can start some like Google Docs or something and just be able to like have this list of people we want to invite to share what they do. And
yeah,
yeah, you know, like this could be even an avenue for individually if we're not really sure what we want to do, but we know that there's some interest in this kind of discipline. I'm sure we're all going to learn about different careers, different paths that people have taken that maybe we can personally take ourselves. But yeah, maybe like having some guest speakers come in if you guys have people in mind that would maybe this would be appropriate for. I have some people in mind, even like the founder of Financial Social Work. She may even be Rita. She might be able to join us for a session, but
oh, that'd be cool.
okay. All right, yeah.
I would agree. I think, you know, I'm assuming you are probably going to be the leader of the macro social work group next year. I would venture to guess, right? One of you, either Cassie or Daniel, because we know Kristen's graduated, obviously.
Mhm.
You know, I think that would be a good group of people to probably draw upon too, and get some, you know, additional perspectives from some of those people. I think, you know, but it doesn't. I mean, it shouldn't be a macro only focused group, because obviously there's a lot of micro implications to all of this, and meso as well. So, but yeah, I think I just kind of wanted to see what it was about, have a, you know, learn something about probably my own personal financial behaviors, as well as how it can be brought and applied to an organizational system. So.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said before, a lot of maybe there's some other person in this group or people that share that interest, and then just sparking that connection with someone else. I mean, I mentioned to the group too that I'm open to like personal meetings too. So whether that's like just being a soundboard for anyone who wants to just talk about, you know, how they would want to apply it to their setting, whether it's personal life or professional life, I'm open to meeting with anyone um, to talk about that. And then Brandon, did you have anything you wanted to share or take it?
To answer your original question, I'm certainly open to all the things that you outlined in terms of what we would be interested in, like learn something new. And then on Michael's point, yeah, I mean, I'm certainly somebody coming into it from a more micro perspective. What drew me in here is with my current patients, and we call them patients instead of clients, but with my current patients, there's just little to no focus in general on the impact of finance. And I notice a serious connection between finances and mental health, and we do substance use too. So, I mean, it's all pretty well connected when you look at any one person,
Right.
but I don't think we address it anywhere near as much as we should. So, yeah, I'm particularly interested in it for that reason.
So you would like to kind of inform some change in terms of how you practice, or maybe even having different roles that would be able to address that need for people?
Exactly.
Right on, Brandon. All right,
Yeah.
cool. Okay. All right. I like this conversation we're having. So we do have it's 2:48. I don't really have anything else to add except for that. I want to make sure that we all kind of keep in communication. And I don't know what you had preferences for in terms of how often you'd like to meet. I mean, I would say maybe no, maybe like a minimum of like once a month, but no more than like once a week. Somewhere between. I don't know if you guys had a preference for that. Like, I mean, I don't have my weekends are free if this time is like convenient for people. Um, we can kind of talk more about that through the chat. But what do you guys think? Like, how often would you want to do this? Because it depends on what the group actually does. But for what you envision it to be or what you want it to be, assuming it will form into that, how often would you want to meet?
I feel like every other week might be
Every
good.
other week?
That's exactly what I was going to say too.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good to me. And like I said, anything on top of that, I'm literally free whenever. So for personal meetings or for like a couple people at a time, I would be more than happy to be able to, like, I was teaching stats and I miss my office hours. So I want to I'd be down to like talk to you guys about whatever. But every other week sounds good to me. Um, just because this was when most people were available. I'm sorry that for the people watching the recorded version that you're not able to make it live this time, but I hope that for the future meetings that, you know, I think it serves the purpose for everyone to be able to interact with each other and actually talk and be here with each other as opposed to just watching it. I think that's more of like if you have to just watch it, you don't have time to make it. That's one thing. But of course, this is all at your discretion. You don't have to participate at all. But I think it'd be cool if we can all share resources in the chat, whether it's like things you've read, fields that you're in that you think this applies to, and anything else that you think will serve our group. Um, but that's all I have to say. But any closing thoughts before we kind of wrap this up?
I think it's a really good idea, and it's cool you're organizing this.
Thank
Yeah.
you for putting this together.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you for thank you for joining. I was so like I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I like makes me smile to know that you guys were actually interested. So I hope that this keeps building, but it doesn't matter. Like if it's just us together, people watching, the people here today, that's all we need. Like just need some motivated, interested people who are trying to learn and help people.
Sounds great.
Cool.
definitely.
All right. Well, that being said, then I guess we'll wrap up. But much love, everyone, and please keep in touch. We'll talk in Messenger, but reach out to me personally if you want to talk and ask more specific questions. But I hope you have a great day. I'm going to end the recording.